on. So back by popular demand. Shea Money.
This guy.
Welcome back, Shay.
Full house. Got a lot of loaded stuff today. We're going to talk about some stuff. The brain, that wet muscle between your ears. Freedom. Freedom. Think about it. You better think. Think. So there is a theme. We're doing a little Aretha week. All of my music will be Aretha songs.
I love it. Great start. I love talking about things.
She, it's amazing how her songs, when you put, first of all, some of this stuff is back in the early 60s, but the songs actually mirror what's happening in my mind. So it actually was pretty easy, So yesterday we did Respect, which, clearly is something that everybody should be striving for. And I love that. And I thought yesterday's Huddle was really great. Today is all about thinking. So many people are just caught up in, I'm busy, I'm doing,
Yep.
Pump the brakes and think. And we're going to talk about how to create thinking behavior, which I love. Nudelberg, why don't you share a little bit of your day yesterday? How's life? What's going on?
Everything is great. Great day yesterday. Virtual coffees and getting connected with people. Referrals are still the best way to do business, and coaching clients are great, and things are good. I mean, to me, always remembering the why. And to me, somebody asked me yesterday, well, why do you do what you do? And I said, it's because I enjoy helping people reach their potential. And so whether it's, there goes Steve Nudelberg out of the Huddle.
Hey, hi, Steve.
So it's just Shay and I, which we've been here before. Anyway, so life is good. Things are good. I'm sure he'll pop back in here in a second. There he is. Welcome back, sir.
I told you, it's has anybody ever heard of Mercury in retrograde? Because everything I'm touching goes to shit. I was out on a great bike ride this morning, lots of fun stuff, and boom, my chain breaks. I had to walk back, man. It was like wah, wah, wah. Anyway,
that's why I'm here to reformat the layout of the pictures.
That's correct. Shit makes it happen.
It is absolutely crazy. So lots of new faces showing up in the Huddle every day. My day was great yesterday. We got to collaborate with Kim Swears, the boat boss. It was the highlight of our day. We had such an awesome time and some really cool things happening in Tampa and Super Bowl and football and some of my favorite stuff. So shout out to Kim this morning. Thank you for that. I'm going to jump right in today with some current events. For those of you who may not know, this will make Shay very happy. Shay played baseball in college, and tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, baseball starts. Shay, is that correct?
Thursday
and Friday would be the opening day for baseball.
Yeah, Thursday's opening day, and then we kick it in the weekend. Starting Friday, everybody gets to work.
So yesterday there was what is that, preseason, if you want to call it, spring training kind of games?
Yeah, inter-squad. A lot of teams are going to relevantly close proximity to people. So the Mets and Yankees are playing each other. Marlins go up to Atlanta to play inter-squad sort of with the Braves, and they get going Friday.
So I'm super pumped because I was never a guy that watched a lot of baseball, but I'll watch anything now. Their numbers are gonna go off the chart. A couple things about that. It's a 60-game season, and for me, the power of the laws of attraction. Turn 60, the number 60 is showing up everywhere for me, man. So it's a good goal. 60 games should be really fun. But one of the things baseball always reminds me of, and I want to bring it up, spring training. What do baseball players do in spring training, Shay?
The basics. Back to the basics.
Oh, you're kidding me. What are the basics in baseball?
Oh, let's see. Well, PFP, which is pitcher fielding practice. So there's and pitchers like to call themselves athletes, but they're not.
So isn't there running, hitting,
running bases, hitting, catching fly balls, fielding ground balls, turning double plays, all the stuff, and then you see even major leaguers still make errors in games, which is
Which the best visual for people is in Major League when Roger Dorn is in spring training and he's getting ground balls just whacked at him one after another, and he's having to take them off the body and his body is bruised. The best visual to really putting in the work in spring training is Roger Dorn in Major League.
What a great
I have a visual. My dad used to call it the guillotine, and when I was playing third base, he'd put me right behind the backstop and just pepper ground balls.
Yeah.
And then in college, we practiced blocking drills. We turn up the pitch machine, the jug machine to 90, and just boom, all those dimple balls. I used to go back, and my wife would be like, "What's wrong with your arms?" I got dimple ball impressions on my arms.
So there's a whole language involved in it. Point of the story is, number one, obviously I'm excited that some sports are back and how they're going to manage this is pretty cool. But the reality is as a professional, if you write down what your basics are and practice them every day, or spend time focusing on the fundamentals, all of the sales training, or I should say most of the sales training that I see, is really fluffy, theoretical stuff. Like, not basic stuff. If you do the work, what's the work? Do the work, practice it every day, do it, get into the reps. And, so baseball, shows us that. One of the cool things I think that I can't wait to see about it is that they're going to have cardboard people as the audience.
Yeah.
So the sights of summer are changing, but certainly, mastering the basics is what I want to talk about, what the takeaway there was. Then this morning, I'm going to bring up a couple of terms, and this is so cool because a lot of the times the conversations that Mark and I have, which are really genuine, this huddle is happening whether you guys join us or not. Mark and I are starting the day, we get Shay involved most of the time, where we're just throwing concepts at each other. Hey, did you ever hear this word? Or I heard this yesterday, or somebody threw me a curveball yesterday. Whoa, another baseball reference. And this is how I handled it. I'm not sure. What do you think? And so sort of theoretical role playing, if you will. Well, I threw two terms at Mark yesterday, red team and 10th man. And jump in and share where we're going with this stuff.
So red teaming is actually a term used in the military, and that's for it's for playing devil's advocate. So in a room where everybody's making a decision and things are being discussed, it's actually playing, okay, yeah, everybody in the room agrees that we should do this. Well, if you're the last person to go, it's now your job to play devil's advocate, which is also the 10th man. Same rule. There's 10 people in a room and 9 say yes. It's the 10th person's job to pull up all the reasons why it's not a good idea, or look at all of the other perspectives to force you to look critically at making a decision, which when you threw it at me, I was like, oh yeah, so every head coach I ever worked for had his guy. So in the coaching world, it was his guy. It was his right hand. It was the guy. It wasn't necessarily an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. It was just the guy who maybe had more experience or had been on more staffs, but it was the guy that he knew in the room that would always say no to whatever it was. Because especially in college football coaching, in the coaching profession, you get hired by the head coach, you're getting judged on your loyalty every day. And if you're not loyal, you're going to get fired at the end of the season. Somebody's going to get hired who is loyal. So there's incentive to be a yes man and say yes to everything, which there's a lot of organizations that operate the same way. You get in the room with the president of the company and he has an idea. Nobody wants to rock the president's boat and be like, no, I don't think it's a good idea because this, and this. So they would hire people on staffs. For Brian Polian, who I worked with at Nevada, Lester Erb was his guy. He was his red teamer. He was his 10th man that would always make sure to bring up all the other perspectives to making a decision.
So first of all, the analogies are scary how on point they are in when we were, operating in a creative space. We'd come up with, we'd name companies, we'd come up with these great campaigns, and we'd sit down in what we then called the war room, and people who have been in my office knew that it was, it was a cool office. I mean, it was really set up cool. It was a basketball court. It had a scoreboard. Our war room was basically a suite. It was all glass enclosed. Anyway, we'd sit in there. We'd do the work. We'd write on the glass. We'd get everything. And then we'd come up with something that everybody was like all enamored with themselves. Yeah, that's great. And all of a sudden you'd see like the room deflate, like we got it. And I would go, okay, here's what we're going to do. I want to write all that on the wall. I want to go take 30 minutes and then we come back and we find the real answer. And they would look at me and like, what are you talking about? I go, the work happens after you think you found something good, so all of this stuff is so linear to critical thinking is important in your life. Critical thinking is important in your business. We talked about decision making from all the way from Thursday, Friday, yesterday, we're talking about decision making. So you cannot ensure that you're going to make the right decision all the time. What you can ensure is that you put the work in to make sure you beat the shit out of every idea. So
to get the best decision possible.
Correct. Right.
Because when you're invested in problem solving, what happens is you're relying on your own knowledge, your own perspective, your own emotions. Everything gets put into that one theory that you've created, and now you're emotionally tied to it. You think because you created it and you did all of this critical thinking in your mind that it's the best way. So the only way to get another view of it is to have somebody else look at it or take a step back and allow your emotions to go away from it and come back to it.
So the Army calls red teaming. It's defined as structured, iterative process. There's the word process again, executed by other members that are providing an independent challenge to the plan. Wow, love that. Here's what the 10th man, which is really an Israeli army, an Israeli intelligence, which if you read anything about Israeli intelligence, I mean, those guys are super sharp. The 10th man is a devil's advocate. If there are 10 people in a room and 9 agree, the role of the 10th is to disagree and point out flaws in whatever the decision the group has reached. Killing the messenger is self-defeating. So I love that because where I want to take this conversation is it is almost impossible to make critical decisions on your own. If you're in a bubble, and that's where dictatorship, if you think about it, I'm just doing it because that's why I'm the boss. I want to do it. Those are really unhealthy cultures. The cultures that are thriving are the ones that have people who have a real opinion. We would hire interns over the summer. You played that role at one point, and we would tell the interns, give it to us, because it's a kernel of an idea, right or wrong, doesn't matter. It's a kernel. So, comment if you would on culture.
Well, yeah. And I think that in order to think critically, you have to ask why. And, talking to people about millennials, I had a great call with a guy yesterday who we connected. I got referred to him from somebody else, and he had a couple different things. He thought our businesses might align, and he also had this problem with his 13-year-old because he's not going outside. He's a competitive kid, all this kind of stuff. And so we got in this conversation about coaching millennials, which for me, I was dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds all the time, and the do it because I said so doesn't work anymore.
Oh, I love that.
It doesn't work anymore for the millennials in particular, because they've grown up in a world where information is instantaneous to them. I didn't know any better. I didn't have a smartphone when I was 8 years old. I didn't have access to the information to go figure out why something was happening.
But you had everything else.
Right, but that wasn't available to me. So for people who grow up in a world where all of the information is around them all the time, it's absolutely critical to have a why, which I think is a good thing. Because if you were doing something and you ask, why am I doing this? And you can't find an answer to the why, you should probably stop doing that, because it's a waste of time.
I agree wholeheartedly. So the aim of all of this, when we're talking about critical thinking, and this will lead to my conversation tomorrow, which is going to be, and I had promised it, but we got off on this whole other content. Tomorrow is all going to be about a personal advisory board. Andrea Garcia, CEO of Empower, friend, client, she really squeezed the lemon as good as any client I've ever had. She's just said, hey, listen, I got questions. I want your wisdom. And she was like, what can I do? And you can have an advisory board of 1, or you can have an advisory board of 5. You can have an advisory board of 10. It's not just for companies, because the aim is to come up with creative, independent, and fresh perspective that engages you to get out of the status quo. You know, if everybody said, okay, and these are the, when I would go into organizations, I'd hear this, I would actually make them put money in a charity jar. Well, that's just the way we do it. What a crock of shit that is, you know? Well, if nobody changed, we never have these kind of tools. You know, if Eric Yon from Zoom just said, well, that's just the way we do it, he was working for GoToMeeting. And he left, or Cisco or WebEx or one of those. You know, everybody's trying to push the envelope to get better. The only way to get better is to question the status quo.
I love that. And for the majority of cultures and companies, they discourage asking why, or they discourage the idea. Oh, well, somebody comes up with an idea. Well, that's not the way we do it. Or you don't have the experience. You don't know what we've been through, which are all valuable, right? I mean, having experience and having previous experiences to rely upon to make a decision are valuable, but times change. The environment changes. So sometimes somebody who doesn't have the war wounds or the scars or the fear of what's previously happened might have a better idea, because they're only operating with the information that's happening right now in that environment. And they look at it with a clearer perspective or a more simple perspective than somebody that's been in it for 30 years that says, yeah, well, but, and always has the buts and reasons why they shouldn't do it.
I mean, so first of all, a couple of shout outs. There's some new people in here. Jim Crash Jensen, Dolphin, great guy we used to hang out with at DT Riots. Welcome to the Huddle, my brother. Janice Bankin, one of my sweetheart friends who made me a star on radio early in my cell phone career. Welcome to the Huddle. Johnny Lee, lots of great. Jordan Sherwood is up and in the Huddle.
Good morning, Mr. Sherwood.
So really cool stuff. So, I think, all of this stuff about critical thinking, people have a fear of being wrong. It's okay to be wrong, but the decision you're making, whether it's right or wrong, if you want to feel really confident in it, focus on what could go wrong. If the what if is such a big part, like I would always call it the oh shit rule. Like, oh shit, that we didn't expect that to happen. You can't see blind spots on your own. You can't do that. And Julia Aquino is back in town. Welcome back. I'm sure North Carolina was amazing. But when she and I worked together, she came in and shared my blind spots. Man, that's real critical thinking. She said, but what if this goes wrong, instead of, so having that personal advisory board, having a confidant. Sammy for me is my consigliere. I wouldn't buy shoelaces without asking him, even though I can be pretty confident that what could go wrong buying shoelaces, I want him to be my no guy, Be the guy that says, no, what if? And Shay will tell you that he has always been no. No matter what I ask him, he just says no. But you know what? I've learned to embrace that, and that critical thinking has saved me. And a lot of the work that we do with people is just playing the devil's advocate side. It's just saying, hey, you may not see it this way, but what if, what if, what if? So, Shay, great to have you on board this morning. Please share some of the details on how people can find this content as a podcast now.
Yeah, so as we mentioned over the weekend, podcast is live on most of the podcast platforms. It's Anchor, which is our upload platform, and then you have Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, Breaker. There's a bunch of different other ones. So the format is that once we wrap up here, I download the audio and post it right there. So within an hour or so, if you miss it, you can catch it back and listen to it in the car or wherever you want.
So the reason why we're moving it to that is I was sitting with someone yesterday here at the coffee shop, and she said, I have another meeting every morning at 8:00. I'm unable to get it live, but I sure would love to get it on the go. And so podcasts are really popular for audio, just listening to and downloading the information. Download it, share it with your tribe. I love when people are out there doing that kind of stuff. So we're at our hard stop. Mark, you want to close us and bring us home?
Yeah, just think, don't be afraid to ask why. And I saw the comment in here that as leaders, it's our job to empower and hold accountable. So allow people to ask why, answer the question of why, give them the power of growing what that responsibility is, and then hold them accountable to the things that you come up with, and continue to grow and evolve every day.
What an awesome morning. Thank you to all the new faces. Come back, bring a friend. Everybody in here, bring a friend. Tomorrow's music will be Aretha. I saw that Jeremy threw out what he thinks it might be. Anybody who can guess what tomorrow's song is, because it's already preloaded, you get a signed copy of my book. So either personal message me, get it to any one of us. But thank you for all being here. This is a blast. This is the best networking on the internet. We'll see you tomorrow. Make it a great day and stay on the ball.